In this next video, we're going to talk about adding and subtracting polynomials. So when adding polynomials, you must have like terms. And each term goes with the sign that is in front of it. So if we talk about the perimeter of a figure, to find the perimeter of a figure, which should be a review, this is the sum, so we add together, of all the sides of a figure. This represents the distance that goes around the figure. So how do we write that? So we're finding the perimeter, P, it's equal to the length plus the width plus the length plus the width. So that takes us all the way around. Length plus width plus length plus width. Takes us all the way around the figure. Or we can combine like terms because there's two L's, one here and one here, and two W's, one here and one here. So you can write it as either one. Then if we were to fill it in, we would just replace what we know. So we don't know what the full perimeter is. That's what we're trying to find in this question. But we do know that the length is 12 because there's a 12 that's from here to here, plus the width is 5, and then we can do that again, plus 12 plus 5. And if we add those all together, we put them in our calculator, we'll get a perimeter of 34. And that would be the same as if you did it this way. You would just substitute in, whenever we sub in, we use parentheses. Perimeter equals 2 times 12 plus 2 times the width, which is 5. And then if we put that in our calculator as well, the same way, exactly as you see it, 2 parentheses 12 end parentheses plus 2 parentheses 5 end parentheses, you would get the same answer. So that's how we add, but now let's talk about subtracting polynomials. When we subtract polynomials, the order matters because when you subtract, like say for example 10 minus 3, we get 7, but if you do it the other way, 3 minus 10, you get negative 7, so the order matters. And another important thing about subtraction is when you see subtract from, whatever follows the word from is written first. And that's important to remember because it'll change your answer if you don't remember that. So that might be something that you want to highlight. When we see that word subtract from, whatever follows it goes first, or write a star by it, or somehow indicate that that's very important. That's something that if you don't do, you'll get the wrong answer. So let's look at these examples. So in this first example here, we're just going to add these two things together. Well, 4x minus 5, there's nothing in front, so I just have those two things. But here I have this plus out front. Well, that means we're adding both things that are in the parenthesis here, so I need to distribute that to both things inside. It's not going to change anything in the addition problem, but we'll see in the next one that it will change it when we have subtraction. So we still have 4x minus 5. Now I'm going to add the 3x, and I'm going to add the 1. That is what we talked about yesterday, combine like terms. So I've got 4x's and 3x's, all together that's 7x's. And then I've got a negative 5 and a 1 when I combine those. And remember to keep the sign in front with it. So if you prefer highlighting, you can highlight those. But we have to do negative 5 plus 1, which would give us negative 4. And that's our answer there. So this next example, we have this subtraction sign here in front. So we have to make sure that that gets distributed to all three things in the next one. So you have to distribute that through. So I'm just going to leave it as is. Even though this first one is not in standard form, I'll worry about that when I combine like terms. So I still have a 2x, I have plus 4x squared, I've got minus 7. But now we're going to distribute this negative, so I've got a negative x squared, I've got a negative 7x, and I have a positive 8 because negative 1 times negative 8 gives me a positive 8. Now I can go through, look for the highest one first. So I've got 4x squareds here, minus x squared. That gives me 3x squareds. And then I've got 2x's minus 7x. That gives me negative 5x. And then I've got negative 7 plus 8, which gives me a positive 1. So that's my final answer here. And we'll talk about this next one in class, and we'll continue through the classwork tomorrow. Have a good night.